Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to What's the Deal, your go-to for breaking down the biggest moments in politics and current events. Today, we're diving into a game-changing topic, Kamala Harris as a 2024 presidential candidate with Election Day just around the corner. Whether you're Team Kamala or still undecided, there's no denying that her campaign has brought some unique energy to this election cycle. As the first woman of color to serve as vice president, her run for the presidency has stirred discussions on everything from healthcare and economic equity to global diplomacy and civil rights. With just one day left before voters head to the polls, it's all about last-minute strategies, final messages to voters, and those closing efforts to swing undecided voters. If you're curious about what Harris stands for, how she's positioned herself in this tight race, and what her potential victory could mean for the country, stick around. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on future updates from What's the Deal. And now, let's jump into Kamala Harris's campaign, what's at stake, and why this election could make history. To understand the significance of Kamala Harris as a 2024 presidential candidate, let's start with her journey to this point and what she represents on the political stage. Harris made history as the first female vice president, as well as the first Black and South Asian person to hold the office. Before her vice presidency, Harris built her career as a district attorney in San Francisco, later becoming the Attorney General of California, and eventually serving as a US Senator. Each of these roles has shaped her platform, highlighting her advocacy for criminal justice reform, accessible healthcare, and equal opportunities for all Americans. This year's campaign has spotlighted her stances on key issues that resonate with a wide range of voters. She's pushed for a comprehensive healthcare plan aiming for universal coverage, which she sees as a human right. Her focus on climate action, an area she has labeled as non-negotiable, emphasizes clean energy investments and ambitious emission reduction targets. Additionally, she has stressed tax reforms aimed at lowering costs for working and middle-class families, while increasing taxes on the wealthiest Americans and large corporations. Foreign policy has also been a significant part of Harris's agenda, with her campaign calling for a balanced approach to international relations that builds alliances but also firmly addresses global challenges like cyber threats and climate-related migrations. As Election Day looms, her team has framed these policies as part of a vision for a modern, inclusive America, aiming to unite voters around shared values of justice and progress. Despite these strengths, Harris has faced significant challenges throughout her campaign. Critics have questioned her prior record on criminal justice and called her policy proposals too ambitious or lacking detail. Yet, she's remained determined, consistently framing her presidency as a pathway to long-term change. With her team's final push underway, Harris is counting on the support of young, progressive voters, women, and people of color, all demographics that she has actively engaged in her campaign. As she closes out this historic run, Harris's supporters see her as a candidate who will champion equality, while her opponents argue that her policies might be too transformative. The divide highlights the high stakes of this election and sets the stage for an incredibly close race. As we count down to Election Day, Kamala Harris's campaign has ramped up its strategies, focusing on mobilizing critical voter demographics and addressing the pressing issues that resonate most with the public. Let's unpack her approach to three major areas: her appeal to key voter groups, the issues she's emphasizing in the final days, and her campaign's strategy in swing states that could determine the election outcome. 1. Appeal to key voter demographics. A central focus of Harris's campaign has been her outreach to young voters, women, and communities of color. Polling data has consistently shown that Harris performs well among younger voters who prioritize climate change, student debt relief, and racial equality, issues she has made cornerstones of her platform. Throughout her campaign, Harris has frequently discussed student loan forgiveness and affordable education as part of her commitment to empowering the next generation. Additionally, her proposed Green Jobs initiative appeals to younger voters looking for sustainable career opportunities in a growing green economy. Harris has also focused on women voters, specifically emphasizing policies on reproductive rights, family leave, and healthcare. As states across the country have recently tightened restrictions on abortion, she has positioned herself as a strong advocate for reproductive freedom, aiming to codify Roe v. Wade at the federal level. This emphasis has particularly resonated with suburban women, a demographic that was pivotal in recent elections. Harris's campaign believes that this group's support could be critical in swing states where the margin is razor thin. Furthermore, Harris has emphasized issues of racial and economic justice, which has helped her maintain strong support among Black, Latino, and Asian American communities. She has spoken about the need for police reform, increased access to healthcare, and economic opportunities in underserved communities. Policies she argues will bridge long-standing inequalities. Her presence as the first woman of color on a major party's ticket has also served as a historic milestone, one she hopes will inspire voters who feel traditionally underrepresented. 2. Emphasis on critical issues in the final stretch. In the last days before the election, Harris's campaign has doubled down on key issues that polling suggests are top priorities for undecided voters: the economy, healthcare, and climate change. On the economy, Harris has framed her policies as middle class first, vowing to increase taxes on the wealthiest Americans and provide relief to working families. With inflation and economic stability on everyone's minds, her campaign has highlighted plans for affordable housing, capping prescription drug prices, and raising the minimum wage. This bottom-up approach to economic policy has resonated with many working and middle-class voters, although critics have raised concerns over how her tax policies could affect small businesses and investment. Healthcare has remained one of Harris's signature issues, with her proposal of a Medicare-like public option as a pathway to universal healthcare. Her stance has drawn both support from those frustrated by high medical costs and criticism from those who worry about the logistical challenges of a public option system. Harris has also made a significant push to discuss mental health and addiction services, addressing rising concerns across various demographics about the accessibility of these services. Finally, climate change has taken center stage in Harris's campaign messaging, particularly in regions that have experienced extreme weather events recently. Her climate platform, which includes ambitious goals for reducing emissions, investing in renewable energy, and creating millions of green jobs, has attracted young progressives and environmentalists who see climate action as an urgent priority. She has linked her climate policies to job creation, a dual appeal aimed at undecided voters who might otherwise prioritize economic concerns over environmental policy. 3. Strategic focus on swing states. With the race as close as it is, Harris's campaign has strategically targeted swing states like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia. These battleground states could very well decide the outcome, and her team has tailored its approach accordingly. In Pennsylvania, for instance, Harris has focused on healthcare and workers' rights, issues that resonate with the state's union-heavy and working-class demographic. She has made multiple appearances in the state, emphasizing her commitment to middle-class support and her plans for affordable healthcare. In Arizona, a state with a growing Latino population and young electorate, Harris has highlighted her plans for immigration reform and climate action. Her recent rallies there have focused on protecting dreamers, enhancing border security in humane ways, and increasing federal support for Arizona's water crisis. Harris's team is counting on the state's shifting demographics, particularly among young and Latino voters, to swing the vote in her favor. Meanwhile, in Michigan and Georgia, Harris has continued to emphasize her positions on racial justice, voting rights, and economic equity. Both states have large Black populations and strong voter advocacy movements, and Harris has actively engaged with local leaders and activists to build support. She has advocated for policies like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to protect voter rights, and has framed these issues as central to her vision for an equitable America. Potential paths to victory. Ultimately, Harris's path to victory will likely hinge on a combination of securing high voter turnout among her base and persuading undecided voters in critical swing states. By focusing on healthcare, the economy, and climate, she aims to appeal to a broad coalition of voters who are eager for systemic change. Her campaign is betting on record turnout among young voters and communities of color, believing that these groups could tip the scales in closely contested states. Yet, there are also challenges. Harris's opponents have criticized her policies as overly ambitious, while some undecided voters have expressed concerns about the feasibility of her healthcare and climate plans. Additionally, the political landscape is polarized, meaning turnout from her base may be just as important as winning over independents and moderate Democrats who could be on the fence. In response, her campaign has focused on door-to-door canvassing, social media outreach, and virtual events to connect with voters who may feel disconnected from traditional political campaigns. As Election Day approaches, Harris's final rallies and speeches will be crucial in swaying the remaining undecided voters. She has sought to frame her presidency as a continuation of progress, a symbol of unity, and a champion of the middle class and working families. Whether her message resonates enough to secure a victory is something we'll know soon. But one thing is certain: this election is set to make history. To understand the voter impact of Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign, let's look at how her policies resonate with specific demographics and the real-world implications they hold. Each example reflects a different facet of her platform, showing how her policies are designed to meet the needs of diverse communities while highlighting her approach to problem-solving. 1. Healthcare and economic relief for working families. One of Harris's focal points has been economic relief for middle and working-class families, a message that's particularly resonated in areas struggling with rising costs of living. For instance, in Michigan, a crucial swing state where healthcare and employment issues rank high on voters' priority lists, Harris's proposal to cap prescription drug prices and introduce a public healthcare option has gained significant traction. Research by the Kaiser Family Foundation suggests that 1 in 4 Americans struggle to afford prescription drugs. Harris's plan to address these costs could provide substantial relief to families who rely on critical but expensive medications. Additionally, her push to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour aligns with her emphasis on economic justice, particularly for those in service and labor industries. 2. Climate initiatives and job creation. Harris's climate agenda has been central to her campaign, particularly among young voters and environmental advocates. In Arizona, where voters are increasingly concerned about the state's water scarcity and extreme heat, her climate policies have been well received. Harris's commitment to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050 includes a substantial investment in renewable energy and green jobs. For example, she has proposed a $2 trillion plan to invest in renewable energy infrastructure, creating an estimated 10 million jobs in the green sector, according to campaign projections. This dual focus on climate action and job creation has particularly appealed to younger voters who prioritize environmental issues but also face high unemployment rates. Harris's team has framed this policy as a chance to secure a sustainable future for both the environment and the economy, drawing connections between climate initiatives and economic growth. 3. Reproductive rights and support. Among women voters, following a wave of state-level restrictions on abortion, Harris's stance on reproductive rights has become a rallying point for women voters, especially in suburban areas. According to a recent Pew Research Center study, nearly 6 in 10 Americans believe that abortion should be legal in most cases. Harris's commitment to codifying Roe v. Wade and her proposals to expand access to healthcare for women have positioned her as a strong advocate for reproductive freedom. In Pennsylvania, a battleground state with a sizable population of suburban women, this stance has energized voters who view reproductive rights as essential to their health and autonomy. Harris's commitment to supporting women's rights through federal protections has become a crucial part of her campaign messaging, particularly as she aims to secure votes from women concerned about government overreach in personal health matters. 4. Advocacy for voting rights. Another significant aspect of Harris's platform is her focus on voting rights and accessibility, especially in states with historically high barriers to voting. Harris has promised to prioritize the passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, aimed at preventing voter suppression and ensuring fair access to the ballot box. In Georgia, where voter suppression tactics have sparked protests and advocacy in recent years, Harris's emphasis on protecting voting rights has struck a chord. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, recent restrictions in several states have disproportionately affected Black and minority voters. Harris's focus on voting accessibility aims to secure a more equitable democratic process, a stance that has helped her connect with communities that feel disenfranchised. Each of these examples illustrates how Harris has tailored her policies to meet specific needs across different demographics. As the election nears, her campaign is counting on these targeted messages to resonate with voters who feel impacted by healthcare costs, climate issues, reproductive rights, and voting restrictions. The success of her campaign hinges on whether these policy promises are seen as both achievable and responsive to the challenges Americans face today. As we approach Election Day, Kamala Harris's campaign has left its mark on this year's historic race. Her platform, which focuses on healthcare reform, climate action, economic justice, and the protection of individual rights, has resonated with diverse groups across the nation. With her emphasis on creating an inclusive and progressive America, Harris is betting on a coalition of young voters, women, and communities of color to help push her across the finish line. Harris's candidacy carries the weight of both her supporters' aspirations and her critics' concerns, making this one of the most pivotal races in recent memory. Tomorrow, Americans will decide if her vision of a fairer, more sustainable future will guide the country forward. Whether you see her as a transformative leader or question the feasibility of her policies, there's no doubt that her campaign has energized the public and sparked crucial conversations on the direction of America's future. Now it's your turn. What do you think about Kamala Harris's platform? Do you believe her policies can address the most pressing issues facing the country? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, if you haven't already, make your voice heard at the polls. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to What's the Deal, and hit the notification bell for our latest deep dives. Thanks for watching, and here's to a historic election day.